What's up, gamers? I'm your host, KOBRA, and today on the Freeroll, we're taking a first look at Aradena Warriors. So, a couple of days ago, I shared with you my initial thoughts on Aradena Warriors. That was a video I posted on Twitter, and if you're not already, you should be following me on Twitter for sure. But it's because I needed to get you some time-sensitive news, that being that there was a tournament going on. Now, that tournament is still running, and it doesn't finish until Sunday, so you can absolutely still jump in and participate. There's definitely still time to win some awards. However, it's going to be a little bit more of a grind with just a couple of days left over the weekend, especially if you want to aim for a top prize. But it is doable, so definitely check it out. I have linked my referral link for Aradena Warriors below. It is free. If you use the referral link, you're going to get a free pack as well. So definitely check it out when you get a chance. So let's dive into the game. A little bit about it. Aradena Warriors is a tactical TCG, meaning a trading card game, and the tactical part is that there's actually a game board. It's 3D. There are multiple tiles and multiple lanes for you to fill and attack, and we're going to go over all of that stuff today. But it is more than just a TCG because you are also positioning your characters on a actual game board, so almost like combining chess or whatever your favorite board game is with your favorite TCG. It's set in a medieval fantasy world, so very Game of Thrones like themes here, and very cool. I think just about everybody can find something that they like within this fantasy genre, and it's quite an interesting approach to a new TCG. This is something that I think will play really well both as a browser or desktop-based game, as well as potentially on mobile as well. That would be very cool to see something like this on my iPad. Your phone might be a little bit small to see, or maybe I'm just getting a little bit older. Either way, the game is interesting and fun. That's the most important part. Now, it is a trading card game, so there's quite a bit more for you to learn and understand before you're going to get any good at this. But that's typical of any TCG. You really need to know not just your own deck, but the entire set and all of the different kinds of strategies that your opponents could throw at you. We didn't really have enough time to truly sink our teeth in that deep with a first look video because really, it takes many hours of playing a trading card game before you can even start to consider yourself to be very good. That said, I do have a lot of experience with TCGs, so it's not the most difficult thing to pick up, but really understanding how to play your deck and what type of strategies to employ is important here, and that was reminded to me by my opponents over and over, which is a good thing. That means that there is a lot to this and that strategy actually matters. Full disclosure, I pretty much always start out with an aggro deck because, well, those tend to be fairly similar between different types of games. And either aggro is pretty far from the meta with Aradena Warriors, or more likely, it still requires some real actual strategy and not just an all-out blitz because, frankly, that didn't work super well for me. But that is a good thing, and it did show me several of the ways that you can counter an aggro deck, which is illuminating as well. So the way the game itself actually works. You're playing on a game board, and it's 1 versus 1. Each player has their own golem that starts out on their side of the board. The board is 9 tiles wide at the widest and 12 tiles long at the longest, but it is kind of a hexagonal shape, not a square. There are various different lanes and different objects on different tiles. So there is terrain to keep in mind, and there is distance that is important as well. At the end of each turn, your golem is going to take a step 2 forward, and that means that eventually they are going to meet in the middle and start fighting. That forces the action, and that is what you need to plan and strategize around, because for sure that is going to happen in every single match. There are also a couple of tiles near the center of the board that are objective points. And if you control one of the objective points, then when your golem attacks the enemy golem, it actually pulls both of you back towards your own goal. So that gives you an opportunity to manipulate the field and, again, build in some additional strategy. Each golem starts out with 25 health, and the first one to die is the loser of the match. You're going to start out with 5 cards and 1 mana. Each turn you're going to draw another card and gain an additional mana until you cap out at 6. You're always going to have some cards available to play, but how many you're allowed to play depends entirely on how much mana you have and the strategy that you're employing, plus the randomness of which cards you've actually drawn. One thing that was employed against me fairly effectively is some damage over time and area of effect spells. So there was a couple of opponents that had wizards that would cast spells and light various tiles on fire. This caused me all sorts of problems for a couple of reasons. Number one, you know where the golems are going to move, so you can target those pretty effectively. In addition, there's all sorts of spots where you can almost pin your own characters in when you start blocking tiles with things like fire. So that was something I was not sure how to really counter, and it caused me quite a bit of problems, but it's very cool that you can employ that type of a strategy. That gives you a lot more control over the actual game board and gives you a lot of different ways to approach the match. That is very cool and something that I enjoyed, even though it meant me losing more frequently, since that's not the type of deck that I was playing myself. There's also a variety of ranged characters as well as melee characters. Some characters are on a horseback, which allows them to move faster and more quickly. And then, of course, there are spells and different effects that characters have, either upon summoning or different effects that they have on the field. All very cool, and that means that you can build specific types of decks for your specific type of play style, or to counter another specific type of play style, and that is definitely appreciated. So this is a beta release, and naturally an unfinished product at its current stage. So it makes all the sense in the world that I've got some suggestions for how to improve the game. Now, this first one is possibly more personal preference than anything else, but the pace of the games is too slow. It's not that they're taking too long. Matches were typically about 10 minutes for me, which that's not too bad, but that included a lot of me waiting, and that's just pretty boring. Part of any game is when you're waiting for your turn to come back, but I was generally acting fairly quickly. You know, I'd say no more than 20 seconds on my turn. Often turns would only take 5 seconds because I've thought about what I want to do and I do it. My opponents were generally using all of their clock, so I was regularly waiting for minute and a half between turns, and then only acting for another 15 or 20 seconds myself, and that gets a little bit boring kind of quickly. That's something that can definitely be improved. Of course, that's only going to happen if that's what everybody thinks, and you know, you would think over time players are going to just move faster because they're going to know the game a lot better, and I imagine many of the people I were playing against have not played this game very much, just like I hadn't, because hey, it just launched, and hopefully a lot of people are checking it out right now for the first time. The other thing that is really just an opportunity to improve is some sort of tutorial. Now, The team has put out a how to play guide on YouTube, and there is a link to it in the game, but I would love to see some sort of a tutorial mode where it's walking you through the different actions, how to do different things, and showing you a lot of the intended uses for various cards and abilities. That can really help speed up the learning curve. Now, it's just natural that in a trading card game there's going to be a steeper learning curve. Getting really good at the game always requires having an extensive knowledge of all of the cards available and the different types of decks and strategies that characters or players are going to employ against you. And something to help speed that up would certainly help here. I can imagine that when we get to a full launch, there's definitely going to be some sort of a tutorial mode teaching you how to play the game right inside the application instead of pointing you to a YouTube video that frankly is only going over the basics anyways. Now, if you've made it to this point in the video, it means either you're on the team and watching my video for some feedback, in which case thank you, or you're interested in the game, and if you made it this far, I think you should download it and check it out. As a reminder, my referral link is below. You'll get a free pack when you sign up using that, and I think you should check it out. It's a fun, interesting game. There are no barriers to preventing you from playing. Doesn't cost anything to download, and you can get in and do a live match within just a handful of minutes. Very cool and worth checking out. Can't beat free. If you are interested in learning more, feel free to send me a comment either on Twitter or in the comment section below. I also highly recommend that you join the project Discord. That's going to give you an opportunity to interact with a lot of the other community members, folks that have been following the project for longer, as well as the team themselves, which is a great way to share your feedback and learn more about the direction that the game is going. I hope you found this fun and informative, and if you did, consider giving me a subscribe below. It really helps support the channel and doesn't cost you more than 2 seconds.